Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Get Up and Get Back in the Game with Dr. Nicole Garrett. I am so glad that you guys keep coming back to see me. You just don't know how excited I am to know that there are a group of people out there interested in hearing what I have to say. But I am definitely that one who wants to inspire you, who wants to see you grow. I want to see you win. I want to see you grind. I want to see you get your grit on. And even in the down times, I want to help you there too and help you maneuver through, just various parts of your life so that you can become the best you ever, right? And so, as you guys are tuning in, I said last week that I'm going to be on YouTube as well. So, I'm going live on YouTube. Look, I'm trying to grow up in this media world, and I'm playing with I think Instagram as well. So I'm getting help with that. But nevertheless, you guys, because of your support and you going out and watching my reels and watching my short clips and watching my little 20 to 30 minute empowerment sessions, it has really been a blessing to me and a blessing to you. And guess what? It's not about numbers. It's about that one individual or several individuals or someone who needed to hear something to encourage them mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, naturally, financially, whatever it is. I have content that can help any of us. So please like, please share, please love. I really appreciate it. And let's dive right in. We hit it and quit it. We won't be in here longer than about 20 to 30 minutes. And I really mean that. I try to get in and get right out. But listen, we're going to talk about three areas tonight. Mainly doing your best. That's number one. Do your best. The second area is try not to make assumptions. Don't make assumptions, right? And number three, develop mutually supportive relationships. I'm telling you, applying those three things to your life, doing your best for you, doing your best for you to achieve whatever it is that you need to achieve, not making assumptions, and developing mutually supportive relationships. Those are three things that we're gonna unpack tonight that you need in the toolbox to help you develop in any area of your life. So in Florida, we're in summertime, but in places like Philadelphia and Detroit and Chicago, they're kind of like still in the spring mode, right? Summer won't really hit until next month. I mean, in Detroit, you could have snow today, right now in May, and it could be 80 degrees tomorrow, right? But for what is that in the springtime, we're all trying to clean up our yards. We're trying to clean out the house, and we're trying to get the grass together and putting down nice mulch or rocks or whatever. But if we're going to do any of those things, we got to have some type of tools, right? There must be some type of gardening tools in the garage, or you may have rakes. We have lots of rakes up north, right? You have rakes to rake up those leaves. You have the water hose. You have the hedge cutters. You have the blowers. Whatever you need is specific to what you're trying to do in that yard. Many of us have cars, right? And when we take our cars to get tune-ups or we take our cars to get repairs, when we get to those car repair shops or to those to the dealerships where they have the car repair shops, you can look all along the walls, right? And you will see every tool that you can think of, because each one of those tools have a specific purpose to make sure that my car is running up to my standards, to make sure that my car can not only get me from A to B, but will take me anywhere that I want to go, and it's dependable and it's reliable. But without those tools, the person that's working on my car cannot complete or create or develop a good product or perform to their best standards and make me happy and allow me to keep coming back if they're not using the right tools. So even in our lives, we need the right tools in our toolbox to help us achieve goals, to help us achieve health results, to help us to achieve certain levels in our careers, to help us just advance in anything that we do. Your craft. I mean, if you're a comedian or something, right? You have to hone that craft all the time if you don't want to repeat jokes, so I'm told, right? That would be a hard task for me, so I stay in my lane. I think I'm a little bit funny, but I'm definitely not the real comedian. I'll leave that part to my husband. But how do you define your best? And should that best be challenged? And so the answer to that is yes. Your best should always be challenged for you, because your biggest competitor should always be you. And how you define that, it depends on the goals that you are trying to sharpen. I mean, your skills that you're trying to sharpen, and creating a community of toolboxes. So, for instance, you need to determine what kind of tools you will utilize to make you better, to make you stronger, to make you wiser. What type of tools can you put in your toolbox to help you get to the next level, to help you go from 0 to 5, from 5 to 10? What is it that you need? And that's something that you have to personally define, or ask someone, get someone to help you define that, to make you richer, to make you healthier. And when I say richer, that doesn't always have to do with finances, but you doing things and sharpening your skills and increasing and enhancing that toolbox will get you to some financial goals. It will get you to some health goals or some mental goals, relationship goals. So I think of it in this way. There should be a hammer in your toolbox. Why? Because when you hammer something in, you're honing in on it, right? And you're making it stick. And because it's sticking, there's going to be consistency there. You need people in your life. You need relationships in your life that will help you hammer in, will help you learn how to be consistent, learn how to have grit so that you won't quit. That's what the hammer is good for. Now, I have pictures around my house on the wall. I'm sure you have pictures in your house. You used a hammer to nail the nail, you hit the nail on the head, right? And so you just kept hammering in. And those pictures are still sitting there because they are consistently performing the job that you intended for it to do. So in our toolbox to grow, and in our toolbox to develop and create and build and stay focused and stay on our grind for whatever it is that we want to accomplish, we need a hammer in the toolbox. Who are those hammers in your life that will help you hammer in to achieve the results that you want? Another thing you may need in that toolbox is you need a saw, because you have a saw. I haven't seen those in many years, but I know that in the wintertime, back up north around Christmas time when we were growing up, sometimes my dad would take us out and we would literally go like into the woods. It was a wooded area that had Christmas trees or whatever, and they would let you cut down the Christmas trees. Or if they were already cut, we would get the tree back home and my dad would take the saw, he and somebody else, and they would saw the bottom of that tree to make it sit right in that tree, in the Christmas tree stand, just right. We need a saw in the toolbox because there are some things that we need to saw right out of our lives, right? And sometimes because we can't see effectively, or things may be clouding our judgment when we're trying to do, or we're trying to advance, and we're trying to go, and we're trying to grow, we need those saw cutters, and we need to be able to see how the saw cutting negativity out of our life, cutting people and places and things out of our lives that tear us down, that don't do anything to try to build us up, that may be speaking negative things to you, or the environment is toxic. We need a saw to cut that out, or we need to cut out walking in lanes that we should not be walking in. So those tools, that hammer, along with the saw, the hammer helps you to be more consistent. The hammer helps you to have more grit. And so we need those hammers in our lives. And then we need those ones that come along and say, hey, Nkoa, That's really not good. I've prayed about that. We have a relationship. I can speak into your life. You trust that person or those people to speak into your life, and they can say, hey, we need a saw cutter here. You need a saw cutter here because this is not advancing you in the way that you need to go. Listen, if we need a hammer or we need certain tools so that our cars can run effectively, if we need hammers and saw cutters so that our grass and the outside of our homes and so that we can keep our, our wherever we live, our environment beautiful, then we certainly need certain things in our natural lives, right? Right? To help us grow and develop. Now, we definitely need the word of God. Definitely. But taking the word of God, letting us know that we can do all things through Christ and marrying it with these natural things that's right here in the earth that we can learn from. It's like ants. We can learn from ants. They can teach us a lot of things about growing personally and developing and becoming a better version of ourselves. Another thing that we should have in the toolbox is some tape. Tape is so good, right? Tape holds something together, like that duct tape, the black duct tape, the gray duct tape. It holds boxes together with boxes can just be bulging from the side, but it holds it together. It can keep something from coming out. It can keep something from leaking out. Sometimes we need tape to perhaps cover up our mouths because sometimes we, as we're growing and we're developing, sometimes we may get ahead of ourselves and say the wrong thing. Other times we may see a thing and we may believe a thing by sight, right? And inwardly in our spirit, but our mouths haven't caught up to what we see in the spirit, and our mouths haven't caught up to what we're feeling and what we know we can do. So we speak against it. So sometimes the duct tape is good to just don't say anything, walk in it, move in it, connect with some people that can be that protector for you. They're like the duct tape for you. They could protect you. And when you get ready to say the wrong thing that speaks against your destiny, you say the wrong thing to speak against whatever it is that you're doing now. And you know that God has told you to do this, but all these distractions are happening all over the place and you just can't seem to figure it out because you're feeling a certain way. But that hammer and that saw and the duct tape and other things that you may need in people can be right there to say, let me duct tape that for you. That's not what you should be saying. Perhaps this is how you may want to strategically, skillfully realign your words with what you know God has said about you, with what you know your skill set is and what you know your desires are. Okay. And then another thing, we need to have pliers. Ooh, yes. So pliers, you take the pliers and you pull stuff out, right? So pliers, you get them and you ply things. You ply, right? And then as you're plying, you're pulling things out. So we need pliers to pull out. We need pliers to stretch us, right? We need pliers to help us to see not just our potential, not just pull potential out. We need the pliers in our life to pull out greatness. We need the pliers in our life to pull out integrity and character. We need pliers to pull out whatever is good on the inside of us that we may be a little bit timid about letting out. But if we don't allow those pliers to pull out more than potential or and show that greatness and that excellence and that skill that's inside of you, it can lay dormant. So we need those pliers in our toolbox. So what am I saying about personally developing and being your best? When you are walking in your best, you need a toolbox to help you become the best, to build and focus and stay consistent. And we need people around us that can help us. They are tools that can sharpen us. They are tools that have been, as my pastor often says, that, sometimes you could be on the first grade level and somebody else could be on the 10th grade level. They may have the skill set that you need to elevate you or take you from the first grade level to the third grade level. And they're walking you through it almost like a mentor. You're the mentee and they're the mentor. And so they can walk you through these things. And so there needs to, this last thing, we need some flashlights or a flashlight. I can't tell you how many flashlights my husband have. I think it just, he loves tools, right? So he has like these little bitty flashlights. He has the big commercial flashlight. And then we have them in little places, in the house, we live in hurricane, in a place where we have hurricanes. I'm hoping that it'll be a quiet hurricane season, so we won't have to really use them. But the point is this. We need a flashlight spiritually and naturally in our toolbox so that when things become bleak or dim or dark, you can pull it from the toolbox and turn on the light or be the light. And so sometimes the light is there and you may not know how to turn it on, but you have a friend. You have a leader, someone in leadership. You have a pastor, you have a deacon, you have your dad, your siblings, whoever it is that can say, okay, I know that right now, I know where you're going. You're heading in the right direction, but you hit a dark spot. You hit a low point. I'm here to flip on the light. And then other times, like David said, he had to encourage himself. So that light comes on internally where you are encouraging yourself. So all these things, and those may not be the tools that you need in your toolbox. I'm just giving you some examples of some tools that you can use and how you can utilize people by giving the scenario of using actual tools and what you can actually do with them, because it works, right? So just do your best and only compete with yourself, because if you're only competing with yourself, you can never trip on you. And if you do trip because your shoe is untied, you're still in your lane. So you tie your shoe up and you get right back up and you're still in your lane. So number one, always do your best. Philippians 4:13 says, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Another translation says he empowers us to do, right? So he empowers you to do and become the best version of you. And so you do your best every day. Days, during these days, life happens. And so you want to do your best every day. And when you feel yourself not settling, you feel yourself not grinding, you feel yourself saying that, I just can't do this, or, you're over the top doing it, whatever it is, pull on your toolbox. That's why it's so important to have that toolbox there. Some days will be better than others, and that is absolutely okay. But no matter what's going on, focusing on your best will keep you centered on improving you. And that's the goal. Stay centered on improving you by focusing on only what you can do and utilize that toolbox if you hit any roadblocks. So Galatians 6:9 says, okay, don't get weary and well doing. Don't get discouraged. All right. And you doing good, because in due season, if you keep going, if you stay on the grind, if you stay consistent, if you keep hammering and allowing that natural toolbox to work for you, someone as your hammer, and staying consistent, listen, you're going to reap the benefits. And so it's not a race, right? Okay. You stay in a race, right? So that you can win. If you quit, you can't win. If you stop, you can't enjoy the things that that God has ordained for you and I to have. And all of that is about growth and how to function during those low and high points and what to do when you're there, right? So these are just some nuggets that I'm giving to you, some takeaways that you can use. But again, in your toolbox, you can use any scenario or any tool that works for you. Some of you may want to say, okay, the nail works good for me, or the screwdriver. I get the concept of the screwdriver, whatever it is. You utilize the concept for you to benefit you, right? Number two, I said, don't make assumptions. Listen, what happens when we assume? It's usually the wrong thought, action, or behavior. So in that case, then it's a ask you me, right? And I'm not cursing. I'm just saying the word using long syllables, as you, me. So when we make assumptions, it's usually based off of things that are not true. It's based off of emotions that are not, that are kind of like, unstable because we may be fired up about something. And then it affects our behavior. So staying away from assumptions helps us to think better. It helps us not to make accusations. It helps us to, again, grow in our character, grow in how we handle the highs and the lows. And I'm telling you, these little things can help you in any area of your life. It may sound very simple, right? Or it may not be simple, but simple is the way. That's the way to improve the fastest. That's the way to, learn. And it's easier to take notes when things are simple. It's easier to have takeaways when things are simple. Right. Now, don't be afraid to say what you really want to say. And have courage and say what's needed with respect. So, and not making assumptions, don't assume that someone does not want to hear what you have to say. Don't assume that they already know. The goal is say what you need to say, right? Have courage to say it and say what's needed with respect. My dad used to always say to me growing up, Neek, baby girl, think before you speak. Because as a kid, there was a tendency just to say whatever I thought, right? And, kids do that because they haven't been taught, or they haven't learned yet. They're being taught. They haven't absolutely learned how to not to just say whatever they think. So the goal is not to muzzle them. The goal is to channel them getting out what they need to say, because we don't want to muzzle anybody. But adults shouldn't be saying, or we as adults shouldn't be saying whatever we think, right? And so we need to channel it, get our feelings out, say what we need to say, and we try to say it the right way, right? So we try to channel things, and all of this will help us. So this goes back into, don't make any assumptions. Don't assume that someone knows what you're thinking or you're feeling. Don't assume that that everything is going to go just right, or everything is going to go just wrong. You channel that. The other thing is, assumptions are usually based upon unknowns, personal ideas, and thoughts about a situation, which can unnecessarily hurt or harm others or you. We don't want that. So in your toolbox, again, always do the best you. And we went through some takeaways for that. And don't make assumptions, right? Learn how to use as you, me, as a way to change and reshape lives. I'm sorry, learn how not to use that, assuming. Learn how not to use assuming to change or reshape lives, okay? The last thing, I just love this. Develop mutually supportive relationships, all right? And so, in general, people usually engage in 4 types of relationships, which can reveal thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that we have about ourselves and each other. So, look, I want to have mutually supportive relationships around me. And those relationships are called interdependent relationships. And they consist of being dependent, codependent, independent, and then interdependent. So at times, I am dependent, right? And I depend on other people to help me achieve my goals. Certain things that I do, and achieving my goals, to do some of this social media stuff, I had to depend on some other people who are way more tech savvy than I am to help me set up some of my platforms. I depended on them to help me out. So there are points and times in our lives, I don't care who we are, we need somebody that we can depend on, someone that we can rely on. And it's so great to have this in our toolbox, developing mutually supportive relationships. Now, the other part of this is codependent. So I make other people's goals more important than mine when you're codependent. So that you make other people's goals more important than yours. Everybody else comes before you do. Now, with being codependent, you have to be very careful there because you could do yourself a disservice. You have to find balance there. So in mutually supportive relationships, I do want someone that I can depend on and mutually support, and so that's dependent. So and also in mutually supportive relationships, there is codependency where I will step back and say, you know what, I'm going to put myself on the back burner and I'm going to help somebody else and I'm going to do the things that they need. But you must strike balance there or that can be very dangerous. So we're talking making sure that you have balance and being codependent, where someone may depend on you depend on someone else. I'm sorry, where I am stepping back and putting myself on the back burner, not like neglecting myself, but my all of my focus is on this person. And there is nothing wrong with that, but you must strike balance with that. You must have balance there. All right. And then there's the times where you're independent. So you're focused, you're consistent, and you're persistent. And you say, I can accomplish all of my goals by myself. So there's lots of things that I do alone. I don't need my daughters and my husband for me to do what I'm doing now. I don't need them to go and teach. I don't need them to go and work and any other things that I do. But when I come home, I am dependent on my husband to be here. I like to come home and see my family and sit down and talk. So that's something that I depend on. What's your dependency? I have other dependencies, right? And so then there's interdependency, where this means that you are accomplishing goals for yourself. You're receiving help and you're doing for and giving to others. That's the beauty of developing mutually supportive relationships because you have dependence, you have independence, you have codependency, and you have interdependency. And that's a mutually supportive relationship. That is something else that needs to be in your toolbox. So you growing become a better version of yourself. You growing to accomplish and achieve goals in your careers. You getting back on the level playing field. You leveling up. You getting up. You stand up. Whatever it is that you want to do, health wise, financially, you want to have mutually supportive relationships. You want to do the best that you can do for yourself every day. Don't make assumptions. All right. Don't assume. Stick to the facts as much as you can. Right. And if we feel like we have to make an assumption about that, let's just be careful of how those thoughts may impact you or it may impact that other person. But your takeaways for today, develop that toolbox for you. What's going to be in that toolbox to help you along this journey, to help you do and achieve everything that you want to, even though there may be some setbacks. Look, there are no losers in the kingdom of God. We all win, right? And so if we focus and stay consistent and stay, just determined and keep using grit and applying that word of God and praying, listen, we can continue to win. That doesn't mean we won't have any setbacks, but even in that, we can learn from it and continue moving forward and winning. All right. I see a few of you have come in. Let's see some comments here. It is so good to see you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For people saying good analogies, tools, and I so appreciate you guys. So please don't forget to like, share, comment. I enjoy being with you, but I think I met my 30 minutes or my 20 minutes. I will see you guys next week. Any questions before I go? Well, I'll see you next week unless something else changes. Love you guys. Take it easy. Bye-bye.